Hey, I was going to talk to you a minute about tools and what I use when I'm working with clay. Oh, my angle just adjusted on its own. my tools, my tools are my phone holder that I bought that I will show you one day. It's got like a little crooked neck thing that swerves around. It kind of does the job. I have two of them. But anyway, I don't use all that many tools here in the studio. My hands are my most important tool, and they are the things that I use with everything I do. So my tools are limited. Probably my second clay tool, the needle tool. The needle tool to scratch it and attach it. That's like super important for me. Wire tools are also really important, what I use to cut the clay with. And my favorite wire tool, in fact, is missing right now, but I've had it since I started this whole thing 10 or 15 years ago. But it's fishing line, and I took literally 2 chunks of clay that I kind of squeezed in actually like this, so it actually looks like my hand, and I poked holes in it and I fired it, and then I wrapped fishing line, and that's what I use to cut my clay, and that's my favorite clay cutter. But like Mud Tools has, I just bought a couple of these. They're nice because the wire that they put on them don't kink. My apprentice that I had, my last apprentice made me, which is really cute, she made me these little wire, she just took a wire and she found these little plastic, I don't even know what they are, little washers, and she tied those on the end. So I have several of these. The only problem with this wire is it kinks if you look at it, so it doesn't cut a straight line, but I don't really care because I'm not really into straight lines. So those are awesome. But fishing line is my favorite thing. Right up there with the needle tool is the serrated rib, and you'll see the little serrations. Is that a word? I don't even know. But the little zigzags, when I'm hand building, this sucker does a whole lot. It works hard and fast for me. So I typically use the serrated edge. I also have this same product without the little zigzags on it. It's just flat all the way around, and that one is good too, but I much prefer the serrated rib. I keep a whole lot of clothespins in my studio, and I use them to close up bags of clay because we want to keep them moist. And then also when I wrap something like these cups right here, if I want a really tight seal, I'll actually roll up the plastic, and then I will use clothespins. I have a huge bag of them, and I love them. Sculpturally, this tool by Philippe Farreau is amazing. It does eyes and lips. Philippe Farreau, his last name is, I can't even read. Did I mention that I use a lot of readers? Because I can't flip and see, and you're gonna laugh. Oh, these are broken ones. There's ones that are not broken. His last name is Faraut. PhilippeFarreau.com. He's a really famous sculptor, but he sells these tools, and they literally make an eye like perfection. Let me show you what else I use. I have all different kinds of sizes of dowels, all dowels, and all sizes. Use them to punch holes. I'll use them to put on the table as a support as something's drying. I use them to roll out clay. I have all different sizes from itty bitty to Mongo, and all the sizes in between. I do love them. I do use them a lot. Chopsticks are a great thing to have. And then paddles are also pretty awesome. So paddles are something like this, and you know, clay is pretty sturdy. So once it starts to dry a little bit, you know, that's kind of the biggest thing in working with clay, is to learn about the water content. But if you have a paddle, you can really smack it around and get it to do what you want once you learn how it behaves. But I have all these different kinds of paddles. This one has a little texture on it. Some are flat. I have one that one of my favorite artists, Lisa Clegg, made, and actually I think her husband makes them for her, and she sells them, and they have a curve to them. Her last name is Clague. Check out her work, because it is, honestly, I feel like she's at the top of the game in terms of what I love. But art is so subjective. Anyway, I've taken a couple of her classes, and she's amazing. If you can grab one of her workshops, she's chock full of really cool, practical advice. Rolling pins. I no longer have a slab roller in my studio because I don't like any of my stuff, even functional, to look like it was made by a machine. So I'd much rather do things by hand to make things feel organic and clean. So those are really important to me. Let's see, let's talk other tools. I've got a, you know, over the years you collect tools and you think like you're gonna need them and that they're awesome and amazing, but like a lot of this stuff, I don't know, I don't really even use it. Sgraffito's kind of fun for my functional work. That's when you take, see if I have a piece around here. Here's some. Sgraffito's when you cover the clay in a colored slip, and then when it's dry, this one says Queen of Nothing, because that's what we all are, let's be honest. Anyway, you cover it in a slip, and then you use a tool to scratch off the reverse. It's pretty fun, and it's kind of meditative. I kind of love doing that. So I have a lot of these little tools that I use to do with sgraffito. They're pretty useful. All different kinds. I do love wooden tools, you know, because they don't stick to the clay. They're pretty darn important. I like these little rubber nib tools. Those are kind of nice. But honestly, your fingers do just as good of a job. And a pencil is always super important. But like I paid for this little crazy little tool right here, but honestly, people, a pencil, which you have probably 50 in your house, does the same thing. Popsicle sticks do the same thing as this little expensive tool I bought. It's got some little pokey thing on it, I don't know. But I don't even use these. My students use them. I rarely use tools. I was trying to think what other things are really go-to for me. I talked about in another video, I buy these, I've got like bins of these. I order them on eBay. They're actually Indian textile prints. So they use them to print on silk, but I use them on clay because they're porous and they don't stick. So you can buy like cool designs, and I have, these are all my, this is my little small collection, but I also have a collection of really big ones, and they knock out, you can knock out some really cool stuff with them. Let's see, what else? Cornstarch is a big seller in my studio. I use that for like a non-stick kind of situation. Just sprinkle it on, whatever, if you don't want it to stick. What other tools? Got lots of pencils over here. I do have calipers that I will use to measure in a very rare case that I measure. I don't like to measure, it kind of gives me hives, but measuring sometimes is called for. Like if I'm making a lid, I'll measure, you know, the size of the pot, and then I'll measure the size of the lid to make sure that'll fit. I'm trying to think if I use it for, you know, if I'm being really crazy anal about something, like that one lady over there I was pretty anal about when I took a class from Christina Cordova, and she taught us like fine sculpture, which it's not really someone I want to be, but I did learn to use these to measure, you know, your body parts. My friend Donna just sent me a message. I'll tell you about Donna one day. It's kind of a fun story. Let's see, what else? Just trying to think. I think that's probably, you know, my tools. I have a lot of pieces of wood laying around, square pieces of wood, and I work on those. So I don't have to, you know, I can move things around rather than, you know, have them stuck on the table. I'll just start working on a board, and that's kind of how I transfer things around. My studio is always a really big mess, but I have a big thing of, I'll show them to you real quick. I can unhook you, I think. Cross your fingers that I don't lose you. Got it. So over here, those are my boards that I build on. Do you see them? Oh, there they are. Those are the boards that I work on. Right in front of them is a garbage can that I fill with plastic, and the plastic from the laundry is the best plastic. Here is, these are my favorite turntables. They're expensive, but they're weighted, and they're just really solid, and you don't have to worry about squeaking and creaking like these here. This is kind of a cheaper version of a turntable, and they just aren't as smooth and fluid. But for a huge piece like this, oh, I just knocked something off my mermaid. Damn it. Anyway, so this is for a large, big piece. These cheap ones are the best option because you don't want to raise up that. I have a variety of brushes that I use, and they're all different kinds, but my favorite ones are big fluffy ones. I'll show you that over here. Big fluffy brushes. We used to have someone called the Brush Lady that would come to our art center, and she sells these big fluffy brushes because they're going to be more absorbent and they're going to hold more. So I like fluffiness. But these ones are pretty decent, but they're not as good as the big fluffy brushes from the Brush Lady. Again, here are the wood boards that I like to work on. These warp, which I'm not thrilled about, but it happens. Oh, here's a paddle that's kind of got a curve to it. That's useful when you're working in the round. Let me see what else. Oh, spray bottle. This bottle right here you can get on Amazon, and it is amazing. It's for hairstylists, but it actually does a really fine mist, which is beautiful. But I also use like old Windex bottles for water or something else. But this is amazing. And the best tip ever that I ever got is I put tea tree oil in my water bottles. It not only keeps mold from growing on what you're making, but it brings happiness and joy to those who work with it because it smells so good. Yes. I use hard as nails. I'll talk about this when I talk about finishes, but I use that to make shiny areas that I haven't actually put glaze on. And it doesn't yellow or anything. It's pretty amazing. Let me see. Any other tools? This is my tools section. These are all my little brushes again, all different sizes. I think riggers are really important to have if you know what a rigger brush is. It does, you wouldn't think that it would work as well as it does, but it's the best brush to do straight and swirled lines with. Do I even have one down here? It's a really long, thin brush, and you wouldn't think it would do what it does, but it does amazing job. I have tons of them. I don't know where they are. It's a long, thin brush. I don't know. I don't know where one is. It's kind of annoying. This is a kind of a cool tool. It's mud tools again, but it's like a wire, and you can reach down into something that you're trying to manipulate or change, or it can go where your hand can't go. So if I'm working on something long and narrow, that's mud tools. One side is squishy and one side is hard. Those are pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Paint sticks are good too. They do good things. So most of the stuff that I work with, the free stuff, is honestly the best stuff. I guess I'm trying to think. I think that might be all that I want to show you in terms of tools. I don't see anything else. So that's kind of it for that, okay?